Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with Mildred. Hey, Mildred. Mildred. Yoo-hoo. Mildred's out, down for the count, as you can see. Hey, Mildred, you gonna get up? Oh, that's nice of you. I don't mean to bother you. Poor thing. We've been playing fetch all morning, and she's totally wiped out. But we're here with the Haydn Symphony CRUSADE, Symphony number 54 in G major. My God, this is a great symphony. You know, as I've been going through these symphonies, I said before at the beginning of this whole shebangy that we're doing that there really are no immature Haydn symphonies. He started writing them when he was like 27, 28. He was a fully developed composer. And the reason we consider some of them to be less mature than others isn't because Haydn was immature. It was because the language of music was immature, the language of the classical era. And as I've been going through these, the more I realized that, it wasn't Haydn who matured. It was the language of music that changed. And Haydn was the one who changed it. He was expanding music itself, not just growing into it, as if there were some sort of, prearranged paradigm that he just hadn't quite understood and he needed to learn and then implement like other composers do. No, that isn't what was happening at all. It was the substance of musical syntax and language itself that Haydn was inventing as he went. And my God, it's fascinating. And this really strikes home with Symphony number 54. So with this particular symphony, we're going to take a slightly different approach to listening than we have with the others. I only have 4 musical examples, one from each movement, because this is the symphony in which Haydn had, for the first time in his career, what later became the full symphony orchestra of the first set of London symphonies. That is, double winds, 2 flutes, 2 oboes, 2 bassoons, 2 horns, 2 trumpets, timpani, and strings. The full wind ensemble versus strings. And that's really what Haydn exploits. In some ways, this is the first symphony to take advantage of what we might nowadays term symphonic orchestration, where you have big, bold swaths of color opposed to each other, and then also incredible variety and intimacy of interchange between solo winds and strings and whatnot. I mean, it's all in this symphony. And so we only need to listen to the beginning of each to hear that concept, because it's that concept, more than anything else, that binds the whole work together. It's the sheer sound of it, the richness of it, the grandeur. I mean, it's really, and Haydn knows this. I mean, he really, really knows what he has to work with and takes full advantage of it. And you can always count on that with Haydn, because even though there are symphonies that came later where he didn't have so many instruments to work with, the principles that he evolves in creating this symphony persist. From then on, the thing with Haydn is that his technique was additive. Every new thing that he explored and everything that he did became part of his permanent arsenal of musical expression. And so this is a very important symphony that nobody talks about and nobody plays. And they really ought to, because like I said, it's written for a full orchestra. I mean, clarinets hadn't popped into the orchestra yet, but everything else is here. And you can play it with all as big an orchestra as you want. You just double the wind parts and it would sound extraordinary. This is a big, dense, heavy-duty symphony, and you'll hear it right away. So what I want you to listen for when we play these examples is this sort of bifurcation between the strings and everybody else. It's almost as if he's working with 2 ensembles opposed to each other, and the sound is just thrilling. It's absolutely marvelous. For example, now the symphony opens with an enormous introduction, a really big, really grand, even Baroque sounding introduction with trills and things. It's very, very impressive. But we're not going to play that. We're going to start right away with the Allegro. Now this Allegro begins like no other symphony by anybody ever. I mean, I really mean it. The main theme is played by the horns. It's not given to the violins, as usually happens. It's the horns. And then the accompaniment is a rhythm in the strings. Bum ba dum bum bum. Bum ba dum bum bum. That rhythm is known today as the Haydn rhythm, because Haydn uses it constantly dum ba dum bum bum. That's his rhythm. It's also the Mahler rhythm because Mahler uses it constantly. But Haydn uses it here as the accompaniment in the strings. And the entire movement is built not on the theme and the horns, but on the rhythm of the accompaniment. The whole exposition is based on that rhythm. The second subject is given to two flutes. It sounds like a totally different melody. Dum ba dum ba ba da 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 dum. That's what it is on the flutes. Dum ba dum ba ba da 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 dum. But notice the rhythm. Bum ba dum bum 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 ba dum bum bum. It's phenomenal what Haydn creates from this accompanimental rhythm, and does it in a way that just opposes strings and wind instruments. The second subject for two flutes, it's wind instruments, it's not strings. It's fascinating how he takes advantage of the fact that he has an incredibly rich alternate source of instrumental color. So I'm just going to play you the exposition of the first movement, and just listen to the sound of it. It's thrilling. You've got the horns, you've got this rhythm pumping away underneath. It's so exciting, but at the same time, you hear the incredible intellectual density of thought that matches the density of sound in this particular symphony. It's just amazing. And Mildred loves it. Right, Mildred? See, you're going to wake up for it? Maybe? Nah, maybe not. All right, here we go. Just the exposition. It's all you need to hear. See what I mean? I mean, it's incredible. It's bump, bum, 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 but you hear that wall of woodwind sound. It's extraordinary, and that's going to characterize the entire symphony, except for the slow movement, which is a special case. Now, the second movement of this symphony is one of Haydn's most extraordinary. It's incredibly long. It's marked Adagio assai, very slow. And it is, even in period instrument style performances like this one, and which are quicker than usual. It lasts 12 minutes with repeats. It could go on as much as 15. It's Haydn's longest slow movement to date, and it features muted strings, oboes, and horns, basically. Those are the instruments that have like most of the stuff to do. And just like in the first movement, you find the melody distributed between the strings and the winds, the horns and the oboes. But beyond that, you have the same concept. Remember the opening of the first subject with the horns and the rhythm, bum ba dum bum bum. Well, here you have something similar too. You have long lyrical lines under a characteristic rhythm in the strings. In this case, it's triplets. Ba da 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 dum, da 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 dum, da 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 da. I mean, in some form, you have this perpetual triplet motion over these long lyrical lines on top, with loud outbursts in the middle just to give you a jolt and wake you up, but we're not going to get to those. You just listen to the opening and listen to how Haydn distributes the melody. It's all new between the strings and the oboes and the horns and how the rhythm underneath propels those long lyrical lines, but at the same time, because this is an adagio, because it's so slow, there's an absolute unique quality to this music, which you hear in Haydn fairly often from this point on in his slow movements, which is this sense of stillness, of loneliness, almost desolation or isolation, you might want to call it. It has this unbelievable sense of quiet, motionless stasis. Even while it's really moving, it actually moves at a pretty good clip. The harmonic changes happen in a way that always keep you listening. It keeps it interesting, even though sometimes the textures are very, very, very sparse And the instrumental lines are very, very lonely sounding. It's one of those wonderful sounds that's really unique to Haydn. It's a fingerprint. You don't hear it in Mozart. You don't hear it in Beethoven. You hear it in Haydn, and it's remarkable. And you hear it perhaps in its most concentrated form for the first time in this particular adagio, although it's appeared previously and will appear quite marvelously again. Think the slow movement of Symphony Number 86. Ooh, baby. But we're going to get to that, in a few dozen symphonies, right? Here, listen to just the opening and to that rhythm underneath with the strings and the division of the melody between the strings and the woodwinds. There's something so special about this music. It almost reminds me of Sibelius, like the Fourth Symphony. That total unpeopled landscape kind of music. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And like I said, it's a very long movement, but the rest of the symphony is so rambunctious that you're ready for a rest when it comes along. And also, if you appreciate its special qualities, that feeling of stasis, of stillness that I talk about, then I think you'll be mesmerized. I find it absolutely hypnotic. Now, the scherzo returns to the same concept as we heard in the first movement. You have a main theme in the woodwinds, ya da 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 da. That's the opening in the woodwinds, and it's accompanied by a slashing, pounding hammer blow rhythm in the whole rest of the orchestra. Bang, da dum, bang, dum, bang, bang, da dum, da dum, like that. And then it goes on the way it goes on. So we're going to hear the complete minuet proper, at least the first time through. You get to hear the A section twice and then the whole B section. And you'll get a sense of it. Just again, you don't have to torture yourself over any particularly, crazy special features. The special feature is the sound. That's what it's about. It's about wind instruments versus string instruments and all the possible combinations thereof. So here is the opening of the minuet. It's an entirely new symphonic sound. And it's so powerful and rich. And the finale is the summation of everything that we've heard so far. It's just as extraordinary and quite marvelous because you have an opening which is just totally intense. It's da 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 bum ba da 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 bum bum, and then you have a melody which is divided up between the strings and the woodwinds. Da da dum ba da da dum winds da da dum ba. The rest of the orchestra. So you've got the wind section versus the strings as we are used to, and then for the second subject. We have the second subject. This time the melody is in the violins. Da, dun, dum, ba, da, da, dum. But on top of it, you've got those woodwinds, those oboes with a long held line that's going to become the continuation of the melody when it unites with the violins. Again, this is an entirely new way, I think, of writing for the orchestra, for the full orchestra. It's big and it's bold and it's juicy and it's exciting and I just love it. When I was preparing these talks, or preparing this talk, preparing means I listen to the symphony like 100 times. That's how I prepare. Then I just talk. I talk about it. I don't prepare notes in advance. I just listen and I give you what my response is. I tell you about what I hear. And when I heard this symphony, it really struck me because much as I love these pieces, you can't commit to memory 107 or 8 or however many there are Haydn symphonies. And 54 was one that I just didn't pay attention to because it comes between the Imperiale, which is like incredible and has a nickname, and the Schoolmaster, der Schulmeister, which is number 55, which has a nickname. And so those are the famous ones. Those are the ones everybody plays. Everybody ignores 54 because this one comes in the middle. And I admit, I didn't remember it particularly. I just didn't. I didn't pay as much attention to it. It wasn't as well known. So then I heard it and I just went, holy crap, this is really an amazing symphony. It has an incredible, totally new concept of writing for the orchestra. And unless you pay attention to it, you'll never know. And it depresses me so that we don't hear these in concert. I would love to see a nice 60 or 70 piece orchestra, double all the woodwinds and play the symphony and just pound it into the pavement. It would be amazing. It would be a thrilling crowd pleaser masterpiece. Well, it is. It really is. So here is the opening, the exposition of the finale, where you'll hear these incredible salvos between different sections of the orchestra, one to the other. It's just, oh my God, I love it. Here it is. See what I mean? I know you heard it. You heard all of it. And that's really all we need to talk about with this symphony, because it's just about the sound of the orchestra of course, in service to musical expression, to grand, pompous, exciting, and in the slow movement, incredibly intimate, soulful, inward. I mean, the range of expression is as wide as the dynamic range and the range of color that Haydn's exploiting. And when you think about it, when you think about why he put this big, long, slow movement in the middle of this otherwise totally boisterous symphony, it's just for that reason. It's because he's expanding the music in every direction at once, expressively, in terms of its emotional impact, coloristically, rhythmically. It's all happening, and it's all happening before our very, very ears. So I hope you enjoyed this particular little talk because, it's not as involved as some of the other ones, I know. But my goodness, what a rich piece of orchestral writing this is. And what a joy it is to listen to and to discover. So I hope this gives you enough so that you can go and discover it on your own. This performance, by the way, with the Heidelberg Symphony under Thomas Fey is just terrific. It really is. It's absolutely thrilling. And that's what makes it so much fun, at least for me to listen to. And I hope you too. I'm really looking forward to this complete Haydn cycle coming out. And we'll talk about it when it does. I've already reviewed a lot of it on classicstoday.com, by the way, if you want to take a look. It ain't perfect. None of them are, but it has some absolutely remarkable qualities. Did you enjoy that, Mildred? Yeah, she's really enjoying it. Oh, yes. She's like, leave me alone. I want to go to sleep. You're not going to sleep through this. I guarantee it. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.